Hey, Ryan. Matt Marshall, founder and CEO of VentureBeat, and Ryan Lester from Bold360, LogMeIn. Thanks for coming here and doing this conversational AI summit for the last couple of days. You've partnered with us, and it was actually great for us to have you as a partner. You brought in some great conversations, and we're framing the context for how companies go about this big agenda that most companies have, right? I think we heard like 1 in 3 have AI initiatives, and conversational AI is probably the leading one.
Yep.
And so they all have this agenda to communicate with their users or whoever their constituents are, engage, interact, convert, and keep them happy. There's this whole experience level, and it crosses so many parts of the business. So it is complex now in 2019 as we get serious. So I'm at the 2 days of content where we talked on customer support, service, and engagement, all kinds of issues, ups and downs.
Yeah.
We had case studies. Can you tell us what you learned?
Yeah, totally. Would love to. So first of all, it was great partnering in the event. I really enjoyed it. I know our team did as well. All the conversations I had were really positive. There was a really interesting mix of like the research aspect of much more the technical parts of AI, the kind of big tech investment of how are people taking that research and turning it into actual products or platforms, and then the business applications. So what was neat is there was a really great cross-section of where's the industry going from an AI perspective, how are companies driving it there, and then what's the results people are seeing or what's the outcomes. What I really enjoyed out of the 2 days was that one, it's moved beyond kind of core tech, like in the sense that there's still a lot of tech investment. Stuff Google's doing is really interesting, and with TensorFlow and their future investments with universities. I think there's still a lot of that great kind of energy of the art of the possible.
Yeah.
But I think what was interesting today is people are kind of beyond that to say, okay, well, what does our architecture look like? How are we actually implementing this?
Yeah.
What are we learning as we're implementing? So kind of people have those scars of these first rounds of investment, both technical investment and financial investment. And so what's really great is there's kind of that practical, that practitioner level discussion, which is really good. Mm-hmm. And then I think what's exciting is, being this is VentureBeat, there's all these great next generation of startups that NLP's become a broad topic. A lot of people are investing in NLP, but they're figuring out what's the niche, like what's the use case that they really want to go after. Because the technology's there, they can build on a platform. What's that specific use case they want to go after that's really valuable, but tends to be somewhat narrow.
Okay.
And so I think there's a really great cross-section of this broad investment, but also interesting opportunities coming out of some of these small companies.
Yeah. So if there was one learning, so you summarized a lot. If there's one learning that came to the fore over the course of the 2 days, are you taking anything home with you specifically?
So probably the biggest thing, actually, it's interesting. It's a topic I struggle to talk about, but is ethics. I think one of the big things that it's actually something people are talking about in a real way. Yeah. There was a great presentation from Hulu that was just had, and they were talking about how they were reducing average handle time. And average handle time in a contact center is how long does it take for your contact center agent to deal with an inbound call. Yeah. And they were going from, let's say, 10 minutes to 6 minutes. Mm-hmm. But the problem is when you reduce that much, now you have that many more calls in a day. And so the agent feels even that much more burdened because it's more rapid volume. Yeah. So it's all right, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna split the difference. So if we can find 2 minutes of savings, we're gonna give you a minute back where you can take an extra minute between calls and stretch your legs or drink some water or take a breath. Yeah. And so there's this unique opportunity to start to think about how do we take the advantages that are coming out of AI and make them allow us to be more human, be more personalized.
Well, that's really interesting, right? Because you touch on a topic that actually ran through the entire event. So here in Conversational AI Summit, and then the wider Transform, where you talked about diversity, explainability of data sets, right? And so there's the data set that has to be clean of bias. And companies at scale like Facebook are still having
still challenged with that,
right? Even though they have all the resources to do this and have big initiatives. Yes. Right? There's the data sets, and then it's the people around the table. Shouldn't all be white males, right? It's got to be really diverse. And we heard from Rodney Sampson about how actually the results actually are speaking for themselves when you do that, right? There's been studies that are showing that there's uplift. So it's actually not just a should have.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually
it's
a real business
value.
model.
Yes.
Anything along those lines, right? So around fairness, inclusion, explainability that was raised in this thread specifically.
Yeah. So one other really great topic, we had what I think they called like a Titans panel. So
Yeah.
Microsoft was on it, Amazon, and they talked about how another great opportunity with conversational AI is inclusiveness or expanding the access to information.
Right.
So you think about some people with disabilities, whether it's a learning disability or a physical disability, like not being able to hear.
Yeah.
How can you use something like conversational AI to make information much more accessible to them and the way they learn and the way they process? And once again, it may not just be language processing, it could be visual. So how do we take something that's a visual video or a visual indication? So I think there's this other unique opportunity where the cool thing about AI is it's infinitely scalable.
Yeah.
So once you make that investment once, now everybody on the planet can leverage it. So you may have a small group or a small number of people that it's going to impact, but it takes a smaller investment with AI to go address that because it's not human bound.
Great.
So that was also really interesting.
Yeah. How about, so you mentioned Hulu as a good example of giving back. Any particular case studies, companies that were mentioned or part of the sessions that left a good example here or precedent for actually getting it right? Any stories that come to mind?
Yes, there were a couple that were really good. I mean, I'm biased. I interviewed
Yeah.
her, but I love Planned Parenthood. So,
Right.
so the
They're a
work
customer.
they're a customer of ours, but
Yeah.
the work they're doing is just really innovative and interesting.
Yeah.
And one in an area that probably doesn't get as much attention as it should. So sexual health and helping our next
Right.
generation grow and learn.
Right.
So that was really interesting.
Now what specifically there are you proud of that they have done?
So for me, it's that they really understood their audience. So they understood how does that generation want to consume information? How do they want to learn? How do they want to interact? And how are they doing it today?
Yeah.
And then how do we take a complex and sensitive topic and make it something that works for that audience? So how do we take the content, which is kind of dry and difficult,
Yeah.
and make it something that's very approachable? That to me is like the quintessential way where conversational is done really well.
Yeah.
When you're taking content that's not necessarily easy to find or has a real journey to it, and then making it something that is an interaction, an exchange, a value exchange.
Yeah.
So I think that is when companies think about how they can make conversational AI valuable to them, they should think about it under that journey of how are we going to create more value through the interaction between you and your user or you and your customer.
That's great. So actually segs to one of the next question I was going to have, which is your product, right? So if you take that Planned Parenthood example a level deeper,
Yes.
right? Just double click on that. What's under the hood, right? Can you talk a little bit about, and maybe we can get to just briefly the differentiation that you
Sure.
bring to the table as a service provider, because as I think many of us heard, there's 20, 30 service providers providing solutions right off the shelf from say Google and all, Messenger, but all kinds of service providers. Tell us a little bit about maybe Planned Parenthood and what's under the hood there.
That's great.
From you guys.
Yeah, I would love to do that. So if you think about the way where the world is going, we're going to a world of messaging and interaction and kind of let the consumer pick the channel that works for them, depending on where they live and what they want to do. And really what we've helped Planned Parenthood with is, so we have that user interface. So in this case, it's a chatbot, it's chat. But it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's how does that user want to engage with you? So we say, okay, let the user choose that. Then once we start that experience, then what's the path we want to lead them down? So how are we building a conversation that can lead them along a path that says, oh, if they have questions about, am I normal?
Yeah.
What's the right path then? And we help them orchestrate that conversation.
Okay.
But not every conversation is the same. So you have to also be able to support the one-off questions.
Right.
And do it in a way that's intent-based and contextual and personalized. So if we know that they identify as a boy or a girl, that we give them that appropriate answer based on what they've told us earlier in the conversation.
Right.
So we become that partner to them on managing that conversation, helping them manage the content they want to deliver in the conversation in the right way, and then helping them with that analytics behind the scenes to say, okay, where's the conversation going great?
Yeah.
And where do we need to refocus and spend our time? Because you're never going to figure it all out at first.
Yeah.
You're going to guess,
Yeah.
and then you're going to turn it on. You're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
So I think the power for Planned Parenthood working with us is that 3-layer of let the customer start the conversation wherever they want, guide that conversation to deliver the most value, and then learn from it over time to make the conversation better.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because with those types of questions you're talking about, am I normal, and sexuality, and all these really deeply sensitive topics that you do not want to get wrong.
Yes, exactly.
As a service provider.
Yes.
At what point do you hand it off to a human, right? And is, roughly what's the percentage of automated answers versus humans at this point, and where is it going?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we use this term harmony.
Yeah.
So we talk about you need harmony between the end user, the AI and the bot, and the agent. And actually there's harmony in a variety of ways. So to answer your question, today people typically see 20%, 25%, even up to 40, 50% of the bot taking many of those inbound questions. A lot of it comes down to the use case and how common the questions are and how complex. But you always need a human there. We always recommend having a human.
Right.
I think over time, there may be more that the bot does, but I think it's less about the bot or the human not being involved, but more about the human's role versus the bot's role. And this is kind of the part that gets missed in the harmony conversation, is that bot should be working behind the scenes with that human agent, helping them, assisting them, providing them more information, training them. And so there's this kind of harmony or dance that's happening between the bot and the end customer, the agent and the end customer, and they're all kind of working hand in hand together to get to a better outcome.
Right. So there's a human from the first touch.
There doesn't need to be. There can be, but there doesn't need to be.
Yeah. So it's escalated at a certain point.
Yeah. And we always say it's seamless. You seamlessly bring the human in as needed. But the point being is that it's often not always great to develop a system where there's no human allowed, because oftentimes then something will come up, and then you have to be really focused on how you deliver that experience.
Great. Well, Ryan, I'm really looking forward to the next steps of your journey. Sounds fascinating. Thank you for joining us here today.
Yeah, and thank you for the great event. I've really enjoyed it.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.